Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 15th edition of Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol, Banega Swasth India, at the Jan Mikulski Foundation, Bethak. We are delighted to introduce our next session, Landscape of Fiction, Paramita Satpathy and Anukrti Upadhyay in conversation with Saket Suman. Paramita Satpathy is an illustrious voice in Odia literature with 20 books published to her credit. Her works have been extensively translated to other Indian and European languages, and she's prominent. Those are Intimate Pretense, A Boundless Moment, and Colors of Loneliness, Dur Ka Pahad, and Chandan Ke Phool. Her recent novel in Odia, Abhipret Kala, meaning A Time Desired, has won the coveted Sharala Award. She has received various prestigious awards, including the Sahitya Akademi Award, Bharatiya Bhasha Parishad Yuva Puraskar, and Assam Sahitya Sabha Samman, among many others. And she joined Indian Revenue Services in 1989 and is presently working as Principal Commissioner of Income Tax in New Delhi. Anukrti Upadhyay writes fiction and poetry in both English and Hindi. Her English works, twin novellas Dora and Bhori and novel Kinsuki, have been nominated for multiple awards. Upadhyay has been awarded the Sushila Devi Award for the best work of fiction written by a woman author in 2020 for Kinsuki. And please welcome Saket Suman. Saket is a writer, journalist, and literary chronicler. He is the author of The Psychology of a Patriot, and as a journalist, he has worked at The Statesman, Indo-Asian News Service, and The Times Group, besides being published extensively on popular culture, politics, and human rights in reputed newspapers, magazines, and news portals. May we please welcome our speakers on the stage, please.
Hello. Namaste, Jaipur. I see so many known faces, and it's wonderful to be here once again. Our speakers have already been introduced, so I'll not go into that. Thanks to the boon of internet and Google Meet, all of us had the pleasure of meeting before this session and actually getting an overview of what we want to do. We do not want this session to be academic, so we are not going to talk about character kya hota hai, setting kaise banta hai, and all of that. We have two very illustrious panelists with us, and we'll try to learn from their lives, and by the time we end this session, I'm sure all of us will have something to carry back from what the title of the session says, Landscapes of Fiction. So I'll just try and start by setting the context for this session, and then we'll get to the conversation with the authors. ओरिजिनल है, ध्यान से सुनिएगा, अनपब्लिश्ड है. The writer and his writing cannot be separated from each other, just as it is challenging to isolate the writer from society. Since time immemorial, writers have been the flag bearers of human imagination. In their search for answers to their eternal quest, they leave something for the community to learn, relish, or carry forward. It comes in the form of verses that teach us to love and aspire, dramas that show us naivety and malice and the struggle for power, and stories born out of experiences or painted by figments of the imagination. Whatever the medium or genre may be, the interaction that a piece of writing evokes in society becomes the enigmatic dialogue between the writer and the world. It's an endless cycle. So long as there's curiosity in the human spirit, there will always be space for the writer to flirt with words. And the more a writer gets immersed into one's writing, the deeper grows the understanding and perspective of the world around. As a meandering river that flows across the sands of time, a novelist challenges the very fundamental beliefs on which one's perspectives are molded, leaving lasting impressions on the banks for us to look and reflect upon. A writer's life is the ultimate theme of one's collected works. Though life's experiences are deeper interactions that do not happen in the pages of a book, but during the process of their penning down and are therefore not as vividly told as those tales that find the light of the day. The evolution of a writer is beyond control. Writing cannot be forced, which would make it seem false and contrived. It is instead painted on an open canvas, carefully outlined and then tailored with expert precision. It is a prayer, a meditation, and a deeper conversation where the writer becomes the liberated one. While being a part of the world around, a writer has to rise above and beyond to walk in the shoes of those around. One has to feel the pain, trauma, hurt, and sorrow, live the joy, the ecstasy, and become witness to the epic celebration that life is. The toil and labor that goes into training oneself as a writer are often the most solitary of affairs. The process is tedious, and when solitude begins to seem like loneliness, many give up and seek shorter goals. They undermine the potential of their creativity and put a full stop to their wild imagination long before it unleashes its true potential. But masters of the art have always carried on and lived countless lives in one span. We have these two wonderful writers who truly signify what I just said at the end of it. The masters of art have always carried on and lived countless lives in one span. If I can begin with you, Madam Paramita. Can you tell us how did you begin writing? What was your first brush with the world of creativity? Was it the literary surrounding that you grew up in? How did the creative world attract you? What brought you near to it?
Saket, I must say that I was a lucky one. I am a lucky one because I was grown in a family of writers. My mother is a very important poet of the country, Paramita Satpathy, and my father was a literary critic, and writing some way has, grown on me. So, as a child, I remember been inside our library, reading the books, and loving the pages, though I don't remember that I had understood those properly. But, the smell of the books, the abundance of books around me, and the writers, important writers who coming to our house and then discussing it all through, and my mother being, getting absent-minded once in a while and just, shunning us and getting inside a room and writing. All those things were euphoria for me, and I was very inspired. I was very, mesmerized by that thought. But somehow, it just happened that I started writing, and my first story was published in a very important journal of our state, the Odisha. That was in 1985. I was doing graduation that time, and some of the good writers said that it is good and you must do that. So after that, there was slowly I started picking up, and now it has become a way of life. I must tell you that it is kind of a life which probably you will be asking me, and I'll be telling a little more about myself. So that is how writing has slowly come into me, like, leaves coming to a tree. And it was very natural probably because I has grown up in the family of the writers, and I thought writing is the most important profession or passion of the world, and writers are the most important people in the world. I still think so.
Very well said, ma'am. That early inspiration for a writer is very important. अगर मैं अपने जीवन से आपको बताऊं तो मैं दार्जिलिंग में एक बोर्डिंग स्कूल में पढ़ता था, और शायद मैं लेखक इसलिए बना कि मेरी माँ मुझे चिट्ठियाँ लिखी करती थी, and I used to reply to her, and that was, I think, my first brush with poetry or with letter writing or with everything else. And how about you, Madam Upadhyay? If I'm not wrong, even you grew up in a very literary surrounding, right?
Yes, that's right, Saket. First of all, before answering the question, I must say what a poetic and profound introduction to writing, to writers, to the world that writers create and populate you made. So kudos for that, and very, very happy that I got to hear that. So to your question, like Paramita ji, I have been blessed. My father was a professor of literature. I grew up in a house filled only with books. Books were my toys from as early as I can remember. But despite my father being professor of literature, it's my mother who introduced me to the habit of writing and reading. She encouraged me to read at a very early age. She encouraged me to write. She actually believed that I could write. And I don't remember, but she has fond memories of me sitting in an open balcony, my 5-year-old self. I can't even picture her anymore. And stringing words together and rhyming. And my mother came upon me and said, "Oh, what are you doing alone here? It's very sunny." And apparently I replied, "I am making a poem." And for me, that was an important activity. It was an important achievement to string words together. And my mother never laughed at me. She never thought it was cute or funny. She always thought it was important. I remember, I think it was her birthday, and I wanted to gift her something. So I asked her, "What would you like to have?" She said, "Why don't you write some poems for me?" And that was the first time I literally wrote one poem a day, because it was 11 days to her birthday. And I gave her those 11 poems. She still has them. I might have been, 12 or 13. My mother is there, you guys can ask her. It was really bad poetry. But she loved it. And that just encouraged me. And then there was a story writing competition. I was probably 15. And my mother said, "No, you must participate." She took me there. I had not a single thought about a plot or anything. And she said, "Oh, you can do it." I wrote a story. This was a competition organized by Kadambini magazine. It was very prominent, literary, yeah, and some really good judges. And I was just doing it because she told me so. I didn't even think I could write. That story won the prize. It was published in Kadambini. And those were the old days. Now I'm going to betray my age here. Those were the days before you all had internet and email accesses and social media. So I received a bag full of postcards and aeromail because they published my address with the story. And I'm sure many of them were just writing to me because this is like a young girl writing about experiences which she definitely has not had because I made up, and I'm sure it was a very precocious and bad story. But I received so many letters, and that was the first time I felt the reach of the written word. And then, of course, I loved writers, books, my father's poetry, and then there was no looking back.
Well said, ma'am. So we have a very common ground between two of our writers. They have both come from literary backgrounds, and despite all odds, they have carried on writing. I have written my first book last year, but I do not know whether 10 years down the line I'll be writing or no. But they have carried on this journey for a long, long time, right? But that first brush with the world of writing or creativity is not enough. How does a writer improve? How does a writer become better? How does he work on his craft? For example, I was recently talking to Saket Suman, one of our finest novelists of South Asia, who has just written this book called The Middle Finger, right? So he told me that, writing cannot be taught like engineering. आप छेनी और हथौड़े लेके आप दीवार को नहीं ठोक सकते हो, राइटर को राइटिंग नहीं सिखा सकते हो. तो आप दोनों ने इतनी लंबी जिंदगी जी है, इतना कुछ लिखा है, आप अपने एक्सपीरियंस से बताइए कि आपने अपने क्राफ्ट को कैसे, अपने हुनर को कैसे तराशा, आपने अपने आप को कैसे बेहतर बनाया. आपसे स्टार्ट करते हैं, मैडम पारुमिता.
As I had just shared with you, I started writing very early in life. When I was doing graduation, the first story was published. But I had started writing before that also, basically for my parents and my school, as Anu had said, for school competitions and early college competitions and all. So what happens, there are certain experiences, there are certain things that happen to you or happen to many people or come to your mind once in a while. Those get somehow stored in a kind of a space in you. And in solitude, you come and keep remembering those, and then words come to you, and you start writing. Yes, I have been writing for quite some time. I would not say that I'm only inspired. I am also working on it. And why did I do it? I must tell you that I live two lives. One life for the world. I am a tax collector by profession. Probably they had sent it, told it in the bio. I have missed it. And it's such a different kind of a thing that I do for my living. So, but when I talk about my parallel life, the life that I do while writing, why I'm saying this because I can see a lot of youngsters and they must be thinking of writing or are into writing already. So how does it influence me, affect me in my life? It is like, it has made me think and look at certain things in a much more deeper and different way than it's generally visible to the world or to my naked eyes. I have probably tried consciously, sincerely, sometime absent-mindedly, or in some time in my subconscious, to look and see between those lines. What could have happened? What is there? What is not being seen to the eyes? Probably that has encouraged me to write on those characters, those events, those feelings, those experiences, and I kept on doing that. Sometimes my recent novel, Abhi Pret Kal, that has been translated into Hindi also. This book is based on the last part of freedom struggle, basically in Odisha, but for the whole country. So, there are certain happenings in my family, like my Nani and Nana were the first widow remarried couple that time. My Nana was a freedom fighter, a doctor and a freedom fighter, and my Nani was married at 7 and became a widow at 9. Her father, who is a hero, that time, had fought against all the odds to make it happen that the daughter will stay and marry again. So those things what I wanted to tell you, that the things get stored in somewhere and they come out and you try to rehearse, because I live that kind of a life, the life of imagination and reality, which is always kind of a different life, two parallel lives that I live, I told you. And in this other life, I always get to live many lives, many kind of characters, many kind of events. They are enticing, interesting, exciting, and sometimes painful also. Very, very painful, because you have to be inside those for a very, very long time. You get transformed to that. Ye kaya pravesh isko bolte hain, is type ki bhi hoti hai. So, as I told you that I have been writing for a long time, and it has been now it has become a habit of doing that. It's a way of life. Probably I can live without anything else, but without writing or reading, probably I cannot live. It has come to that. And there is no time for me to explain my feelings before writing each and every book. But I must tell you that for every book, I try to put a vision, put my conviction, and which is very interesting to note that it changes with time. Probably what I was writing when I was in my 30s, and at this moment probably I'm writing something else. Maybe my mother says, who is still now the first reader of my books, my work, she says probably वहाँ पे ज़्यादा आवेग था, हो सकता है. It could be that at that point of time they were ridden by excitements and the feelings, very strong feelings, but now maybe it has been smoothed a little by reasonableness, which comes with understanding life and experiences. But yes, there has been a conscious effort also, and to put the things, the convictions I have into words. If you give me one more minute, I'll tell you, at the moment I'm writing about a kind of a dichotomy and similarity between the mythological women characters and a modern woman at that situation, put in that situation. So I have been writing a series on that and plan to make a book out of that. So certain things have come to me which I thought that I must express and must let my readers know. And those are my thoughts basically and experiences which I wanted to say.
Thank you. Two things. Madam Paramita is being very humble when she says that, I'm not that accomplished as I'm making her out to be, but she's already a recipient of the Sahitya Akademi Award. She has more recently won the Sarla Devi Puraskar, if I'm not wrong. और आप बता रहे थे कि आपने अपने किताब में अपने नानी की आंखों से फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल के बारे में बताया, right? So I have written a work of creative non-fiction. It's not fiction, it's creative non-fiction. So even I was having that struggle कि ये freedom struggle has been told too many times. इसको कैसे बताएं कि लोगों को बेहतर समझ में आए? So in my book, it is told through the eyes of Professor Romila Thapar. So I'm in conversation with Professor Thapar, and she is recalling the freedom struggle, how she saw it from eyes. आप पे आते हैं मैडम उपाध्याय, and we are already halfway through the session. आपने अपने हुनर को कैसे तराशा? How did you become a better novelist, and how did you go about doing this craft?
It's very generous of you to imply that I'm a better novelist. I'm not. I'm an apprentice. I consider myself an apprentice writer. And I'm not saying this because I'm being humble. I'm saying it because that's the truth. I started writing fiction pretty late in life. I think 2016 is when I started writing prose, short stories, novels. I just got very lucky that HarperCollins published my English works and Rajpal and Sons published my, I write bilingually, so my Hindi works. I come like Paramita ji, I come from a different world. I'm a trained lawyer. I used to work for investment banks for a very long time, for global investment banks, and lived in a different world. Writing just was something that I felt was a seed sown in me that just kept germinating and germinating. You know how you sow a seed, you don't know when it's going to come into bloom. I don't think it has yet come into bloom, but at least it has germinated. There were life events which caused the upheaval. But I think what really has caused me to write are two things. One, because I really want to write. You have to want to do it without fear, without expectation of any favor, without even being expected to be read. Every time people now with social media, everybody can access everybody, which is great. Every time readers reach out to me to say, I read your novel, Bhauri, and it touched me. I read Dora, and it connected me back to my Rajasthani roots. Or I read Kintsugi, and it showed me how you can mend the ruptures and be a whole person again. I am filled with astonishment and gratitude because I did not expect anybody to read my work. And so one is a true, indomitable wish to write. The second is support. I think, and I'm sure it's true for Paramita ji too, especially for women authors. I'm sorry, but I'm going to make it a little bit gendered here. For women authors, we lead so many lives. There is a professional life. For 22 years, I worked full-time for an investment bank. Investment banks are eaters of time and energy. They compensate you well for that, but that's what they do. And, we have family, children, other worldly engagements that we cannot shed. I'm not saying male authors can shed them. I'm saying for us, there is no option. You have to firmly live and inhabit and manage the various worlds as a woman. I could never have done it without the support of my husband. And this is, it might come across as ruining my feminist credentials, but I'm grateful to him. Without his unconditional support and also, a lot of pride in what I do, I have been able to persevere. The third thing, which, I only said two, despite being a banker, my math has been seriously weak. The third thing is you find the right person at the right time to read your work and say whether it works or it doesn't. मेरे पिता कहते थे, मेरे पिता हिंदी में लिखते थे, वो मुझे कहते थे बेटा रचना लिखना एक प्रक्रिया है, रचना प्रक्रिया है, चीज़ें पकती हैं, तुम उनको उस प्रक्रिया को जल्दी करना चाहो, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता, चीज़ें पकेंगी। वो जो बोलते हैं रसरी आवत जाते सिल पर परत निशान, जो रस्सा है वो आता जाता रहता है, पत्थर पे भी निशान पड़ जाता है। तो वो प्रक्रिया को तुम उसको फास्ट फॉरवर्ड नहीं कर सकते, चीज़ों को पकने दो। जब वो पक जाएंगी तो वो फूटेंगी, जब वो फूटेंगी तो वो फलेंगी, जब वो फलेंगी तो उनकी खुशबू फैलेगी। वो इस बात को, ये मेरे पिता के लिए तालियां हैं, उन तक पहुँचे आवाज़, वे अब इस दुनिया में नहीं हैं। उनका प्रभाव जो मेरे जीवन पर रहा, जैसे सूर्यमुखी फूल और सूरज होता है। सूर्यमुखी फूल वो अपनी इच्छा से भी नहीं रोक सकता खुद को, वो सूरज की तरफ मुड़ेगा ही। तो मेरे जीवन में बहुत पुरुषों का योगदान रहा है और मैं उनके प्रति बहुत ग्रेटफुल हूँ, और स्त्रियों का। मैंने पता नहीं तुम्हारे प्रश्न का उत्तर दिया कि नहीं साकेत, बहुत सारी बातें कह दी।
Yes, I think all of those are valid points because at the end of the day, we all want to take something back from the session and not go, just with the academic discourse that happens all the time. And you raised some very valid points. Madam Paramita, if I can even ask you that, building upon what Madam Upadhyay said. Writers are solitary creatures. Very humble of you again to say that, I'm an apprentice writer. A writer is always learning, he or she is never satisfied, right? So in that sense, they are very solitary creatures. So इन्होंने जैसे बताया, तो उस हिसाब से मुझे आप ये बताइए कि so many people sitting here, not everybody will be a writer, but many of them might have people in their family or friend circle who are writers or who are budding writers. And then second point I want to bring to you is, Madam Upadhyay brought the difference of, male writers and female writers. I would rather take it on a different level and say the fiction writers and non-fiction writers, और उभरते हुए लेखक और established writers, है ना? तो हमें आप अपने करियर से, अपने एक्सपीरियंस से ये बताइए कि जो लोग अपने immediate circle में writers को देखते हैं, how can they be a pillar of strength to them? Because writers are very solitary, they are never satisfied. वो disappoint होते हैं खुद के लेखन से, वो बार बार पन्ने को फाड़ के डस्टबिन में फेंकते हैं. Drafts after drafts, the process is very tedious, right? So many a times, as I said in my opening remarks, that the process is long and many times they give up and put a full stop to their wild imagination long before it unleashes its true potential. So what can people do to keep the fire, to keep the flame alive in the writers?
Well, it's a very difficult question, Saket. Probably I have not got the answer till now and been looking for it all through my life. Writing, has become such a part of me. I cannot say that I can live without it, but for as taking cue from Anukrti, my mother, as I told you, she's a very important writer. She told me when I was very young, I was going to join civil services, then got married, had a child, my daughter. Then she told me, I was saying that why should I write? What do I get out of it? Then she told me, look daughter, I have written a poem also on her, that Ma Beti Ke Baatcheet. So she told me, look Beti, ye hai ki, many things will come and go in your walk of life, and many things you will lose, but writing is such kind of a passion which will keep being with you all through your life and work with you as a very, very trusted and faithful friend all through your life. So probably I keep remembering this. I'm getting goosebumps when I tell that also. And I remember her or whenever I have an occasion to speak to all of you. So I think youngsters can understand this in a better way. Writing would be for you like a world where you are Alice and you go to a wonderland. Or, you are Harry Potter and just cross the mirror and go to somewhere, some other land. Probably at this walk of life, you may not think of that, but after some time, maybe 10 and 15 years hence, when life becomes very complicated, complex, throwing in every direction, then you will understand that I have some corner where I'm there for myself only. And yes, how do I relate to you? How as a writer I relate to you? No, I do my work, mera sadhana ho, writing jo ho, in a very solitary manner, in a room inside with a table desk and table lamp. I'm not like an actor. The actor, for art, they come out and you follow them I mean, we follow them madly. But for a writer, what he writes or she writes, it goes out. It goes out, and you you are the person who interpret it in a multifarious ways. It's not that what I have written, you will understand it that way. You will understand it that way. He will understand in a different way. So everybody has something to take out of it. So I would not say anything to be there to be disappointed. And writing will teach you patience and teach you that you are an apprentice, or you are learning all through your life, and it will give a kind of a feeling to accept things as it is. That is what have been my experience.
Can I just add then? So what you were saying is so true. Everything rung true. I call it secretly, this is the first time I'm sharing, I feel writers are shy exhibitionists. शर्मीले दिखावटी लोग हैं, अपने में घुसे रहेंगे, लेकिन वो आपसे बातचीत करना चाहते, आपको बताना चाहते हैं उनके भीतर क्या घट रहा है, लेकिन बड़े शर्मीले हैं, कहा नहीं जाता, संकोच हो जाते हैं, और स्त्रियों के लिए तो दूसरे सरोकार भी हैं. Just wanted to add.
So I have so many questions to ask, and we barely have 6 minutes left. So I want the audience to really get a taste of how accomplished our readers are. We'll do a brief reading from both of your works. Madam Paramita, would you like to start? Give us a very brief reading. We just have 6 minutes before we open the floor to the audience. Let's keep it very brief. Yeah.
Saket has told, though we are shy and non-exhibitionists, we sometimes feel very, very urged to read out to you, because that is how we reach you. We have nothing otherwise. We are not like, charismatic or celebrities like actors and all. Anyway, this book, A Boundless Moment, this is the Academy Award winning book, and this has got an array of stories on the different experiences of women. I am reading a part of the story, Alone Together. This is about two women friends, two girls. When they were just completed their school, one of them found that she has got leukodema. So how life has changed for both of them, how the girl with the leukodema became a woman and lived her life, and how the other woman has lived her life. So since time is not much there, so I'll just read for 1 minute. Okay, so towards the, अपराह्न जो बोलते हैं life के, maybe after 60 years of age, both of them are meeting. She has been a professor and retired, and is living at some place. This is Veena and Maya. Maya is the girl with the leukodema. Veena sat silently, watching Maya sipping the golden brown liquid. After a long time she spoke. Her voice was almost inaudible. These days we are living like two strangers. Maya cast a questioning glance at Veena. We no longer live as husband and wife. We hardly spoke to each other in the last 2 years. Most of the communications are made either through the servants or signs. Veena took a pause and went on. I didn't tell you when we had met last. Maybe a decade or so ago. He always returned home late. All these things, she narrated the frustrations of her life. The Veena, the correct woman, and the girl with leukodema, woman with leukodema. Maya did not accept this. I'm just skipping it. Maya did not accept this, because I must listen to you, because you're much younger to me. She wondered what she could say to console Veena. Longing and pining for something, to part from a dear one, or to lose something you value a lot, to cast aside memories you cherished with care. Aren't these the most important truths of life? Veena muttered, as if speaking to herself, her face half turned towards Maya. There are other equally important truths too. To make a fresh start, to salvage your dreams from the ruins, to explore new possibilities instead of brooding over what is lost, Maya explained. Both women stood at the balcony, resting their hands on its rail, gazing at the distant jungle. The fading light of the departing day swept over their elderly bodies, revealing to them the secret corner of their own minds, now shaped to maturity after being cast into the mold of their separate individual experiences. The soft, cool breeze that rustled past them stirred the curiosity and sense of regret of leaving a path of life untrodden that was familiar to one and an enigma to the other. Okay? So I should end here. Thank you so much.
Anything.
Yeah. So that was riveting. मैं अपनी हिंदी किताब में से पढ़ रही हूँ, नीना आंटी, इसके बारे में ज़्यादा बात नहीं, लेकिन परमिता जी की कहानी की तरह दो स्त्रियों का संवाद है, एक बड़ी उम्र की और एक युवा। सुदीपा ने अपनी अंगुलियों की ओर देखा। हाथ आपस में रगड़ने के बावजूद उनकी सलवटें वैसी की वैसी थीं। नीना आंटी, आपको याद है एक बार मैं छत पर रो रही थी, बंगले में किसी की शादी थी, आपने मुझे शेक्सपियर पढ़कर सुनाया था। नीना आंटी ने सुदीपा की ओर आंखें उठाईं। गोधूली की धूमिल कासनी रंग की ज्योति में उनकी साड़ी का रंग गहरा हो गया था और चेहरे पर छाया उतर आई थी। तुम्हें याद है? उन्होंने कहा। हाँ, सुदीपा ने गर्दन हिलाई। लेकिन मम्मी कहती हैं ऐसा कभी नहीं हुआ और मुझे इतना विविडली याद है सब कुछ, आपकी ड्रेस का रंग भी। मधु जीजी के कहने से क्या? तुम्हें याद है तो तुम्हारे लिए हुआ, नीना आंटी ने कहा। लेकिन क्या आपको याद है, क्या सचमुच हुआ था या फिर कोई और? मुझे याद होने न होने से क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है सुदीपा? किसी एक के भूल जाने या नकारने से तुम्हारी याद, तुम्हारे अनुभव झूठे नहीं पड़ जाते। अक्सर हमारी स्मृतियाँ एक दूसरे से मेल नहीं खाती। जो जैसा तुम्हें याद है वह वैसा ही दूसरों को कभी नहीं होगा। लो, एक टोकरी तुम उठाओ। उन्होंने बांस की टोकरी सुदीपा को थमाई। वहाँ बरामदे में फूल सुखाएंगे, यहाँ इतनी ओस गिरती है, बाहर छोड़ा तो सब सड़ जाएंगे। बंगले में मेरा एक ही अड्डा था, उन्होंने कहा, छत, और शादियाँ तो वहाँ दर्जनों हुई। डैडी को भीड़ इकट्ठा कर शादियाँ करवाने का बड़ा शौक़ था। वह शौक़ तो फैमिली में सबको है, सुदीपा ने कहा। नीना आंटी ने बरामदे के कोने में रखे तख्त पर टोकरी की पंखुड़ियाँ एक छोर से दूसरे छोर तक बरसा दी। हाँ हाँ, सो तो है, उन्होंने कहा। उनका स्वर हल्का फुल्का था। तुमने वह किस्सा सुना है जब दूल्हा शादी करने टट्टू पर बैठ कर आया था?
We barely have a minute in our hand, but एक चीज़ और मैं जो समझना चाहता था वो था how फिक्सन नॉवलिस्ट के लिए ऐसा क्या एक्सपीरियंस होता है जब उसका राइटिंग गेट्स लॉस्ट इन ट्रांसलेशन। और हम ये इस्टेब्लिश इसलिए कर सकते हैं क्योंकि मैडम उपाध्याय खुद से हिंदी और अंग्रेज़ी में लिखती हैं और मैडम पारुमिता, आपकी राइटिंग has been translated into other language, right? So have you ever been in a position where you felt that something was lost into translation?
The few of the nuances would be lost, but in my, long time of writing, I guess that as a young woman, I was very worried कि ये कम हो जा रहा है, क्या ठीक नहीं आ पा रहा है, but that's the only way we can reach to the people in India, unless my work is being translated or a work of a Malayali writer being translated into English or Hindi, probably we can't reach you. So, अगर थोड़ा सा भी lose कहाँ हो जाता है, lost हो जाता है in translation, still I think we can ignore it. But what I have marked that from translation from Indian language to Indian language, like from Odia to Hindi, Malayalam to Hindi, or to Bengali to Hindi, has been those nuances are mostly kept. Basically, to 99% they can be kept also. That has been my experience because I would say that I'm happy with the translated books that I have.
ठीक है। एंड मैडम उपाध्याय, क्या आपको कभी ऐसा लगा कि मैंने अंग्रेजी में कुछ लिखा है, अब मैं खुद इसे हिंदी में लिख रही हूँ, तो इसमें थोड़ा छेड़खानी करूँ, फेरबदल करूँ? वो तो आपने ज़रूर किया है।
बिल्कुल, आपने
तो
मुझे पकड़ लिया साकेत, बिल्कुल। हाँ, स्त्रियाँ वैसे भी उठाई धरी का काम करती हैं घर में। यहाँ से हटा के उधर रखा, वहाँ से ये अच्छा नहीं दिख रहा, वहाँ टांग दो। दो भाषाएं मेरे लिए वो स्त्रीपन जीना भी है। I often transition in the writing process from one language to another, and nothing is lost actually. I feel a lot is gained, at least for original writing I can say. I feel every time I switch from one language to another, there is a deeper layer. There's more enrichment somehow. I understand things better. English gives me the distance, and Hindi gives me that closeness. Yes. तो आप समझते हैं, आप
ठीक है,
भाषीय राइटर।
ठीक है। अब हम फ्लोर ओपन कर रहे हैं क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर्स के लिए। वी हैव द फर्स्ट हैंड हियर, सेकंड हैंड हियर एंड थर्ड हैंड हियर। लेट्स स्टार्ट। द फर्स्ट हैंड हियर with the spectacles, please.
So much for a wonderful session. My question is simple. A lot of people just read books and other stuff for increasing their knowledge. You as writers, what is your strategy for introducing someone to reading for pleasure, especially fiction? So I would love to hear from all three of you.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm answering it is because I have a 19-year-old son. And I did not introduce him to writing. In fact, he has introduced me to many different kinds. He's a football freak. So I read football books now. I'm not lying, I read football books. I know zero about sport. There's not a sporting bone in my body. What encourages you to enjoy something? Well, actually nothing. You cannot force another person or encourage them. All you can do is introduce them. Introduce them to your own joy. Introduce them to the instruments of those joy, right? Reading is a multi-dimensional activity. When you watch something on the screen, I'm in no way denigrating the visual medium. It has immense reach, immense power. Where words do not reach, you can see things, you know. But that is its limitation too. It's all there. There is very little room for interpretation. When you read, that's when you engage. You go deeper. You explore your own feelings, your own reactions. It teaches you immense compassion too. I have felt, you know, like you were saying, Paramita ji, you've started looking at things differently. I find this oasis of calm, sorry, Saket. We talk too much. We get so little occasion to talk. You go ahead now.
So we'll take the next question. We want more questions. The man in white, please.
Hello, namaskar. I'm an author and journalist from Odisha. My question to both the authors, both the ladies. She's from management and law background. She's a income tax commissioner. My question is, have you ever tried to put your professional experience into your writing?
You know, experience is from the world. Profession is a very little part of it. Experience from life, from world. And if I take experience being a woman, if I take experience being a mother, if I take experience being a, you know, bahu somewhere, of a friend, and experience of other, you know, the women in mythology, though I haven't experienced them, but I experienced them through my mind. So how can I not write about experiences? I mean, draw something from the experiences from my profession. Yes, some experiences, profession also has given me some kind of a, you know, opening, I must tell you, to think in a different way, to mix with the world, see the different of the world. We writers are very greedy. We love to have experiences all the time from everywhere. You know, experiences which we, through our own persona, and the experience of others through our own mind. So profession has to be a part of it.
Next question. Can we have question from...
Can I just add one thing? I agree, very briefly. I agree experiences do incite writing, but the similarity, at least from my own writing experience, between the experience and the writing is like acorn and the oak. अगर आप बीज देखें तो पहचान पाएंगे किस पेड़ का है. अगर आप पहचान पाएं बस उतना ही सामने रह जाता है between experience and writing through the process.
Can we take some questions from back? Please, the lady there in white with the spectacles there. Yeah.
Good morning, and thank you for this very enriching and useful session for those who were really listening. My question is to all three panelists as a writer. So when we start our journey as a young writer, we are more into passion, like Paramita ma'am said. We're writing intensely, and it is more plot-oriented. Over the time, we go into character, not a person as a character, but maybe entire setup as a character. And I would say it is on top of all these vertical genres like romance, thriller, action. On the top of it, it's all literally fiction because you are entirely beyond the story. As a writer, where do you see yourself, and what do you prefer, I would say? Thank you.
Yeah, it will just come to you, as I said, you know, like flowers to a tree or leaves to the tree. And don't worry for the passion. Be very, very passionate about it and keep writing whatever you feel like.
More hands, please. Again, the lady from behind there, right next to you. Yeah. We'll come front. We'll come.
Okay.
By profession, I am doctor and professor head in pharmacology department, medical college. तो
Please
question
come
नहीं,
straight to the question.
question नहीं, बस यही कि मेरे को भी बड़ा अच्छा लगा किस तरह से हमारे विचारों में समानता है, जैसा आप अनुभव करते हैं वही कि वही। मैंने उतना नहीं लिखा है आप लोगों की तरह प्रोफेशन की, पर इससे मुझे भी ऐसा लग रहा है कि लिखा जा सकता है अगर अब मैं अपना रिटायरमेंट लूँ और पूरा डिवोशन उस पर लगाऊं। तो मेरी 2 किताबें हैं वैसे फिक्शन की।
जिंदगी जवां
और एक
है, अभी
चीज़-
बहुत
नहीं
लिख
अभी
सकती हैं।
जवान तो नहीं हूँ, पर it
Here,
is
the
very
lady in front,
inspiring
please.
for me. It is
And
very
then we'll come back
inspiring.
to-
Thanks a lot. Okay.
There. Please go ahead, ask.
Okay. Hi. So I'm a software developer and an author. And my question is ki, how much, like, is the idea or the thought important or the hold on language when you're writing? Because I'm also writing a fiction. So, matlab, is it that I need to be very strong in English or my imagination is enough?
This is like a chicken and egg question, or actually that's a wrong analogy. But what is more important? Is it which one of your senses is more important? You cannot answer that. You cannot put a gradation. I think things will come together. It's my favorite couplet from Ghalib. I keep quoting it. आते हैं गैब से ये मज़ामी ख़याल में, गालिब सरीर ख़ामा नवाए सरोश. Everything that you write about comes from somewhere else. It processes in you. You'll find the language. All the best to you.
Right in front, the lady here, the last question.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to let me ask something. My name is Kriti and I'm an English major student. So my question is that, is it possible for a writer to write without the autobiographical elements coming in?
Just in 30 seconds, Madam Paramita.
Of course. You can write on anything. As I told you, I'm writing on women in mythology. But, I am there everywhere. If autobiography by that, if you mean that is autobiographical, then I have no excuse. You are there everywhere in all the characters, be it a male, be it a female, be it an old man, be it a tree or whatever. A part of me is there. I'm writing myself, my convictions, my ideas, and autobiography is there everywhere, and you live so many lives. It's just interesting.
Thank you. We have run short of time. Thank you to the founders and producers of Jaipur Literature Festival for having us here. हमें established writers को celebrate करते रहना चाहिए और उभरते सितारों को दबाना नहीं चाहिए. उभरते लेखकों का मदद कीजिए. उन्हें दबाने से उन्हें आपका कुछ नहीं मिलता है. उन्हें सम्मान देने से आपकी प्रतिष्ठा और बढ़ती है. And we should all keep celebrating the established writers and encouraging the young ones. Thank you very much for having us here.